everyone. Thank you for joining us on this video today. Today I have Jessy. She is our photographer friend. Jessy, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Taylor, first of all, for having me. I'm so excited to chit chat a little bit more just because the wedding industry is like right up our alley, of course, because that's what we work in. So thank you so much for asking. Yeah, I'm Jessy. My business is Jessy Herman Photo. It's primarily a wedding business. I work with a lot of couples with engagement photos, anniversary photos, and of course, weddings. So that's kind of how Taylor and I know each other.
Yeah. So how did you get started with photography in general, and how did you kind of find your way to wedding photography?
Yeah, I got my first camera in 2009. And so that was a gift from my mom. And then over the course of the years, just really learned the ins and outs of it, experimented, played, and kind of found that my calling was working with couples and primarily, like I said, in weddings. And it's just such a big, fun celebration full of love, which like has totally captured my heart and kind of been the route of photography that I don't know, kind of followed, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely know when I get engaged that I would love to have you following around.
Oh my gosh. Oh, day made, month made. You're so sweet.
You're just so fun and like chill and everything. It's definitely like what
Oh,
I think
you're so
couples.
nice.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like my vibe, I would say, as far as how I approach the day is really relaxed and really natural, just because I feel like it's your wedding day. It only happens likely most times one time. And so you want to be able to look back on it and see it, how it really happened and how it really was. And so something I always tell my couples is I will never make you do any cheesy prom poses. Like I pinky promise you, I'm not about that life.
So I want to talk about a little bit about what photographers want clients to know, and just how clients can be a little bit more savvy when they're selecting their photographers. So can you tell us what you think the most important thing to ask your photographer is, or the biggest like consideration when you're trying to decide between maybe a couple different photographers?
Yeah, I would say, I would think, I mean, I guess working with couples for the last several years, I feel like the most common reason that they initially reach out is because they saw something in your work, and it's likely the images that kind of spoke to them or drew them to you. And obviously, you want to like your wedding photos. So I think, looking at that style and maybe the color, because there are so many variations of how a photographer approaches the day and the editing in their artistic eye. Some people like the really light and bright pictures. Some really love true life. Others are a little bit darker and more moody. And so I think that initially it's the style of the photos that they're looking at that, kind of gives them that push of like, I really want to talk more to them. But what I think is equally as important is taking that time to talk client to photographer, or client to any vendor really. But in terms of photography, like something that I don't think is an initial thought is that your photographer is likely going to be with you your entire day.
All day.
All day long, like from start getting ready to the end of the night when you're celebrating and partying with your friends on the dance floor.
Yep.
And so I think something that is really important is just that you feel really comfortable with your photographer, that there's somebody who makes you feel confident, that makes you feel relaxed and at ease, and that you kind of can build that sort of like a friendship with, so that it does make your day very easy and seamless.
Yeah, and I think theoretically I'm assuming your ideal clients are clients that choose to do engagement photos with you, then their wedding photos, and then they have a baby and they ask you to come and take those photos, and family portraits. So maybe that you're involved with them even beyond like their entire wedding day, but like
Totally.
Yeah, big spans of their life.
Yeah, and that's like the funny part is that I don't think, again, like it's really probably not an initial thought because it's likely their first time planning a wedding and they've not gone through the process before, and they might not realize like the scope of how closely they will work with some of those vendors. And you're right, like so many of my couples and I are still in touch and like I know what their life is up to, and like when they get new jobs and when they're, you know, expecting and all that good stuff, just because we do form that good friendship.
I love those couples. I love
I know, they're the best.
They're awesome. So I find that kind of like a sticky point sometimes in the photography process during the day of the wedding is doing family portraits. Do you have any tips either for planners or for couples, or planners and couples working together, how to make that process a little bit smoother for you guys?
Yeah, I agree. Family pictures are definitely the portion of the day that can be chaotic or like a little stressful if you let it, just because a lot of people, a lot of personalities. And so it just, I think, it can become a little bit overwhelming, as I'm sure you know.
Yes.
And so I always suggest, I think that like communication is so key here, just because being able to like tell everybody who you would like to have in your family formal photos ahead of time that they are going to be in those photos, it just alleviates any room for error as far as like, oh, sorry, we didn't know, and then they're missing, and now you don't have your photo.
I have to go hunt them down.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, who's Grandpa Jim? Who is he? Where is
he? Exactly, yes.
I don't know what he looks like.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the hard part, is like we don't know every family member on that intimate level. So like if they are MIA, shoot, like we got to find them now, or else we're going to get a more informal one at the reception, which is also fine. But there's a reason that we're there to take those really nice pictures for you guys. And so, yeah, I would say definitely like figure out your list of family members, and that can be a list that you do send your photographer. For me personally, that's about the only time of the day that I work from a specific shot list. All the other parts, like I just really appreciate my couples trusting the instinct and experience and kind of just creative eye. But yeah, because like you said, we have no idea who the heck Aunt Susan is. Like it would be such a help if we had that list so that we make sure we don't miss anybody. And for a lot of my couples, I know they'll give me that list, but then also give it to their coordinator or day of planner. And at that point of the day, they're with us side by side, and we kind of just all work together to make sure that that part of the day does go seamlessly.
I've also found it's super helpful if there's someone who isn't like, if your best friend from childhood knows your entire family and they're only in one of the photos, they're a super helpful person to have by our side, to be, so I can be like, wait, who's Lisa?
Yeah, totally.
When you're out,
the maid of honor right next to you that whole time too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just make sure that those family members know, okay, immediately after the ceremony, like this is our meeting spot. This is where you need to go before you go to cocktail hour, before you go grab yourself a drink, like, and say hey to all your friends and our friends, like, we need you here. We're going to take 20 minutes, do family pictures, and then you can be on your way. Like that is just so helpful. Like I said, communication is a huge piece of that.
Are there any misconceptions about photography or wedding photography that you want to throw out to anybody watching this to kind of talk them through?
I think I know, just as a general assumption, I guess, for any field of photography is that, oh, you're just clicking a button. Like, it's so easy. You're just there to show up with like your nice camera, and that's kind of it.
Haven't they seen how many buttons are on this thing?
Oh my gosh, I know, right? So yeah, but like in you know, like every job, there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes, and making sure that you know how to use your tools really well, and that you do understand the flow of a wedding day, and especially come wedding day, because there are moments that you just can't recreate, whether that is the first kiss or those really sweet in between moments that just happen in seconds, that are a big part of why you have a professional there. You know, yeah, it's not like we don't just come and click, 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 and then send you those all.
Right.
Obviously, afterwards too, it takes a lot of post-production to make sure that we are fine-tuning those, as far as making sure your coloring is correct, and making sure that your skin tones don't look super blown out or not true to life, or you know, doing the crops and edits and uploading your gallery, and really just taking all of that after wedding work as well.
Yeah, and I think someone like you, another added bonus that you offer is a certain level of service. Like you're going to be there for your couples prior to the wedding day to answer a lot of questions and smooth out some details.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, and that's I feel like before the wedding is the point of I'm sure a lot of photographers, I know for myself, that's kind of where we encourage like hire a planner because we can help you with your timeline as best we can as far as when photos can happen, but we are not event planners. Like you guys are the experts in that. And so, but yeah, because I feel like we do work so closely ahead of the wedding on just what's the day going to look like? What's the vibe and feel you're going for? Where is this going to be taking place and what time? Who's in charge? Like there are all these things that come up and that's kind of where you guys come into place too. But you're right. There's so much work both ahead of the wedding and planning and preparation so that we can be of good service to you come wedding day. And like we said, as well as afterwards.
So I know for a lot of couples, getting ready photos are important. Can you describe an ideal space for getting ready photos, or what kind of like environment you like to walk into, what you want them to have ready, etc.?
Oh my gosh, the most important thing about any part of like getting ready, especially, but really any part of the day where you're going to be taking pictures is having natural light. So, for instance, like right now, I'm literally in our sunroom because it's like a glass room of windows letting in, even though it's a gray, cloudy day, like that natural light really helps in photos because it is so even and it's really flattering. And so a lot of times, if you're in a hotel, making sure that it at least has big windows that we can open. If you're at an Airbnb, usually those are a little bit more unique and allow a lot more natural light in. If you're getting ready at a church, the church basement might be the space that you are given, but it's definitely not ideal. I also know your makeup artist will appreciate having some natural light and not just, that faux like ambient overhead lighting that's really yellow and can
Super attractive.
skin tones and just look kind of a wreck. Like those beautiful photos that you see on Pinterest are, yes, they're candid, but they're also like thoughtfully planned as far as where they're happening.
Any advice for couples that feel camera shy or do the thing?
Oh my gosh, I have to tell you. So I would say like 90% of the people who come to me, like in their inquiry, will say like, we are very awkward. Like we've never had professional pictures. Like we are not models. And like, no, of course not. But guess what? You're still going to kill it and you're going to do amazing. And I think that's a big part of going back to feeling comfortable with your photographer and making sure that there's someone that you do feel comfortable around and can be yourself around is a big piece of that. And a lot of times for those people who are, okay, if you say so, but like we're still really nervous, that's kind of where I especially encourage an engagement session. Engagement sessions ahead of your wedding just allow you to be in front of the camera and get comfortable, and you get an idea of what it will be like for us all to work together on wedding day. And a lot of those nerves are kind of like pushed aside because we do the engagement session and not even 15 minutes in, they're like, oh my gosh, this isn't that bad. I'm like, yeah, you just gotta be yourself, show up, love on each other, and have a great time. It's really not that bad. But yeah, for the people who are super nervous, I would absolutely encourage you to do an engagement session ahead of time.
So first looks.
I love a first look. The thing is like logistically, it really helps.
So much easier logistically.
Yes, it's so helpful as far as your timing goes and being able to break up your photos throughout the day. Just a lot of those reasons. Especially too, if you are really wanting to stick with that 1 hour time of, after your ceremony, there's usually your cocktail hour. And in that time, that's sort of like, okay, this is the hour that we have for pictures. If you were really stressed on like, we really just want to be able to get to our cocktail hour, we don't want it to be more than an hour, whatever, breaking it up that way is really helpful because you can do a portion of those photos before your ceremony. For instance, you could do your entire bridal party pictures before your ceremony, after your hair and makeup is all fresh, when you guys have just gotten dressed. It's just, again, it kind of breaks up your day. And as far as timing goes and logistics, like your guests won't be waiting as long, things like that. However, I will say, as a bride, I went the traditional route and I wanted to wait, and I did a first look with my dad, which a lot of my couples choose to do if they don't want to do a first look together, and still equally as beautiful. And so I do understand like each side of it from the, like I said, logistical side. A first look works wonders. It allows the couple a really beautiful private moment and time together, just those two, which for a day that's all about them rarely happens.
Yeah.
So, but again, from the bride side, I did the traditional route, so I do understand like both aspects.
Did you feel like your husband's reaction was what you wanted it to be when you walked down the
Oh,
aisle?
yeah, he got teary. That was the first time that I saw him tear up, and then the second was literally like 4 months ago when our son was born.
Aw.
And so it was, very, very special. But that's the thing too, is that I would say more than half of my couples choose to do a first look. And they have that really, again, emotional, private, sweet time together, just the two of them. And then it comes ceremony time, say an hour later, and those emotions still come flooding right back, because even though you've done your first look together and you've seen each other and you've spoke to each other and, gotten to have that time, the moment of walking down the aisle and seeing that part of the day, it's still like all the emotions still come flooding out, because all of your favorite people are right there and they're all watching you. And it's just like, it's such a big piece of the day. So I don't think doing a first look discredits that part at all.
Okay, Jessy, we want your thoughts on unplugged ceremonies.
I love an unplugged ceremony simply because, wedding days are just so special, and what an honor to be invited as a guest to witness that. And how much love and joy the couple is getting by you being there. And I just think you owe them, the respect of, if they ask for an unplugged ceremony, just tuck your phone away, tuck your camera away, tuck your massive iPad away for 30 minutes and like be present. Yeah. You don't need to watch it through the screen when it's like in real life, it's right here happening before your eyes. Just like be in the moment, share that time with them. And again, like, I just think if they ask for the unplugged ceremony, they have their own reasons, and we should all respect that. And honestly, I don't feel like, of the unplugged ceremonies that I've attended, there are always a few people who just don't see it or ignore it. But I don't feel like I've ever seen a guest be upset about it or like make a negative remark because that's what the couple is asking. Like, people are there because they love you, and like, I would say 9 times out of 10, they're very respectful if that's your request.
Yeah, that's a definitely good thing to know, because I
Yeah.
know there's a lot of couples that are like, I definitely want to do this, but I hope there's not like a ton of pushback.
Yeah.
Also, another place where I can jump in if I like hear grumblings, I can remind them of that and be like, well, maybe you could take a photo if you stand back and clearly out of the way of the photographers. It's definitely something that you can.
Yeah, that's such a good idea too, because obviously it shouldn't be on the couple to be trying to manage the day and, stay on top of everything that might be happening. But I do feel like as a planner, you are kind of tasked with, hey, can you just take care of this, or can you make sure this doesn't happen? And you're right, that's a perfect example of like where your role is so important in that day, because the last thing they're really focused on is like, who's got their cameras out? They just know that that's not what they want to have happening.
Awesome. Okay, Jessy, I have a lot of couples ask me if they need a second shooter or not. When do you feel like this is important? In general, thoughts?
Yeah. So I always, in booking a couple, we like talk in depth about what they envision for their day, what it's going to be like, all of these, just really like making it known what they want their day to look and feel and be. And so a couple of the key points that we always talk about in those initial conversations are, for me to be able to determine if having an associate with me for that day is necessary. Is it going to be helpful? And so 3 things that I always point out are, if you want getting ready pictures, of both you and your other half, but you guys are getting ready in separate locations. And maybe it's 15 minutes across town. Obviously, I'm just one person and can only be in one place at a time. And logistically, like to maximize the time for your day, it's just more helpful to have a second person with me so that maybe I'm with the bride and her girls and my second photographer is with the guy or whoever else. So we kind of split the morning getting ready duties that way. That's a big reason why a second shooter is very helpful. Another one is if your guest count is just large, if you're having a really big wedding, obviously there's more people, more to photograph. Again, one of me and a lot more of them. So another big reason why that helps. And then the third is really just if the couple requests it, if that is just, you know, friends have gotten married, they've been in weddings before, it's just what they're used to or what they really want. Sometimes they just have their own reasons, then yeah, absolutely, let's do that if it makes you feel more comfortable. Because there are definitely perks, like having two people means more photos, different perspectives, you know, different angles. You get a little bit more variety. Just, again, two people, two cameras, it's just more.
It's just math.
Yeah, it makes sense.
How do you suggest like giving and sharing photos that you guys take from your wedding with the rest of your family?
Yeah, so the way I do my photo delivery is through a personalized online gallery. So basically I will upload all your final images after they're edited and touched up and done, and they get all uploaded into your own private gallery. I send that link, it just arrives to them via email, and then from there you can download the pictures in a couple different formats depending on what you're doing with them. You can share that link to social, forward it to friends and family who maybe didn't make it, or honestly who were there and just want the photos themselves also. So it makes it really easy that way, that it is all digital so that everybody can easily access it and, you know, save photos and favorite photos and order prints and do what they want with them.
Yeah. And then I always love when couples choose to like make prints or do books for some older family members because they love them.
So initially I will say, like, I will never make you do any cheesy posed photos because that's just not my vibe. Yeah. Of course we will still get those really nice, you know, family photos, and those are the ones I say, like, these are the ones for your mom and your grandparents to put on their mantle or on their walls, which is so funny because I know for my dad, 3 of us siblings have been married, and the wedding photo that they've chosen for all of us are the ones where we're just like standing pretty and smiling at the camera because that's what parents love, right? And so it is important to do those, but yeah.
Then this is a question I got from online when I posted on Instagram. Yeah, so the people want to know how much should they consider your portfolio versus reviews? How much weight should they generally put in reviews? How do they navigate that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say, again, obviously you usually start by looking at the work and something about it resonates with you, whether it's how it looks, how it makes you feel. If you can picture yourself at your own wedding having photos like that. And so again, I think work is a big part of it, but you know, anybody can make a website and say nice things about themselves. And so that is really where I do feel that reviews or like word of mouth referrals do hold a really good weight. If you're on the fence for whatever reason, if you are deciding between 2 people who you like equally, maybe their pricing is exactly the same, you feel like you vibe with them both really good, and maybe it's just like, well, shoot, I don't know. Go take a look at their reviews, and maybe one is like stellar customer service and was really amazing and made your family and all your friends at your wedding feel equally as loved as you did, and maybe another is, you know, yep, they came, they did the job.
Yeah.
Thanks. Like, I don't, you know, and that's kind of where you can make your own judgment calls. But again, anybody can say nice things about themselves. But I do feel like people who have had that past experience with you, who can share it firsthand, it does, I think, speak volumes.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else you want to just kind of download knowledge onto anyone watching this video?
Hire an event planner. I mean, I send a lot of people your way who are looking for recommendations, but I do, and that is something that I include in when people book with me, I send them a welcome guide. It's like 35 pages. And that's like one of my top tips is having somebody there, and whether it's a true like event planner who helps you from start to finish, or if it's the week of or day of. And I know you provide a variety of services and offerings just depending on what people feel like they might need. But I just think it is so helpful. And I think a lot of times I've seen people assign like, oh, my aunt's going to be our point person, which is amazing that your aunt is so willing to do that. But I also feel like, oh, doesn't that just take away from her being able to share the day with you and really, again, be present and not have to be worrying about like, oh, I don't know, like the bartender was supposed to be here, or like the DJ should be set up, but he's not, those little things that inevitably do pop up. Like it's really nice to have someone who's not a family member, who is professional, and whose job it truly is. Like, this is what you guys do for a living.
Yep.
Why not have you there to make that day like as easy and seamless as possible for the couple? So shout out Taylor.
I fully endorse everything she just said. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us and tell us your thoughts. Tell us where everyone can find you on the interwebs.
Yeah, you can find me. My website is jessyherman.com. My name is Jess with a Y. Same on Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. Jessy Herman Photo.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
This dog right now.
He's so cute. I freaking love his ears. He's so
sweet. What are you doing? Interview.